Okay, folks, so this is talk two on my series of astronomy talks. And I did away with the hat. We can all agree it was a pretty silly looking thing. So, and there's no bugs in here, and there's no rain or anything, so why would you wear a hat? So, the first thing I would do, the biggest question would be how do I appreciate the night sky with what I have now? Or very inexpensively. Here we go. First thing you need to do, I think, is get yourself a planisphere. This is a planisphere. This is a pretty good sized planisphere. What this is you can set it for the time of day, and the month of the year that you're in, and it's going to show you the constellations that are available for you to see in the night sky at that given point in time. And it highlights a good planisphere, has a few of the most interesting objects that can be viewed with the naked eye, with a pair of binoculars, or with a small telescope. So I would recommend the second thing you get is a pair of good binoculars. They don't have to be anything really expensive. I would say the bigger the better, but as you get bigger, they get a little harder to hold. The bigger the instrument is, the more important the mounting system for how you put that a pair of binoculars pointed at the sky, because with a small pair of binoculars you're going to see a few more things. You're going to highlight things, but with a bigger pair of binoculars you're going to highlight things even more. And it's a good way to learn the night sky. It is the best way to learn the night sky. You can start even with just your naked eye and try to learn the constellations. Typically, what I found when I tried to do this on my own is I needed a guide. I ended up joining an astronomy club, and I went out countless hours with a good friend of mine. His name is Craig Cortis. He's a great guy, and he spent hours with me. He knows the night sky like it to the point where it blew me away how much he knew. But I think when you're trying to navigate by yourself, even if you have a good tool like a planisphere and star maps and other books and things that point out what you should be looking at, I think you can be a little lost if you don't have somebody that's kind of guiding you and confirming that you're seeing what you think you're seeing. That's important. And Craig, for me, had endless patience because I obviously didn't know anything, and at the same time, I wanted to know what he knew as much as I could know what he knew. And very quickly, I did come up to speed. I say very quickly, after countless hours under the sky, under the night sky. This isn't a hard concept. Finding things and finding them quickly can be a challenge when you first start out. And I would remember Craig and this other guy named Tim, Craig Cortis and Tim. Tim's last name is escaping me at the moment. But Tim had a lot of telescopes. He would seemingly buy another telescope every couple of months. He would wear out what he could see with that telescope, and then he would be interested in different objects, and so he would buy a bigger telescope or a different type of telescope that would accent the type of objects that he wanted to see a little bit more. So I would recommend you get a guide, that you join an astronomy association or astronomy. Our group is called Aldrich Astronomical Society. They meet every Saturday at Anna Maria College currently. We also have an observing site in Oakham, which they'll take you to. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so the sky is really dark, and you can see a lot of things, and you can learn very quickly what you'll be able to see, and you'll see what you can see from your own backyard if you're in an area that's not as dark. And you'll want to be under dark skies more and more as you learn to appreciate what's available to you under a dark sky. You'll learn to know why the sky isn't dark everywhere. The biggest problem, of course, is light pollution. And I thought that was kind of a crazy term when I first started, but when I first started this hobby, you learn very quickly light pollution is a huge problem. It's a huge, it's a phenomena that has taken us, taken over our ability to appreciate something as ancient as exploring the night sky. Exploring the night sky was something that in antiquity was very important. If you look at history and you look at the even just the history of the development of technologies to look at the night sky, a telescope, and various types of telescopes, you see that it was very important to a lot of people at one point in time. With the advent of television and video and all other ways of presenting the subject, being outside under the night sky is not as valued anymore. And that's a shame, because there's nothing like it. There's nothing like being under a clear, dark sky and looking up and having some understanding of what you're seeing. There's no other pastime like it. Clearly, there's no other pastime like it. And I'm involved in a lot of things that I love in terms of passions. Astronomy happens to be one of my most ingrained passions. And so you'll want to recap, the two inexpensive things that you could get to start looking up and appreciating what you're seeing and having some understanding of the amazing objects that are going to be available to you. Planisphere is the first one, very inexpensive. You can probably buy this for about $10, $20, I don't know. I don't even remember. I bought it a long time ago. But on it, this is a real good one. This is called David Levy's Guide to the Stars. And, on the back of it is a lot of, direction, a little bit of direction on what you should do first. He talks about binoculars and the importance of them as an astronomical discovery instrument. So I would go with that first, the planisphere, and a pair of binoculars that is comfortable for you. Just remember, when you're going to be holding them up, your arms, I don't care how strong you are, when you're holding an object in this position for a great period of time, when you're trying to get the little nuances of what you're seeing, that can become very tiring. So the binoculars need to be small in one sense, that they're not going to burden you and you're not fatigue your arms. And at the second most important criteria would be size, and now that as the size goes up, the heaviness goes up a little bit as well, and you're going to want to mount them in some way onto a tripod and a holder that's designed to hold binoculars. But to start with a small pair of binoculars, I would say a small pair of 10 by 50s would be the first. That 10 meaning a 50 being the diameter of the lens, and 10 being the power of the binocular. Uh, the power is an indication of how much bigger something will appear at distance. Uh, that's probably a bad explanation, uh, but you'll want to start with about 8 to 10 power. And that's going to be a heavy binocular at some point, heavy enough that you're going to want to mount them. And there's a number of different tools to do that. But that's as simple as it gets: a planisphere and a pair of binoculars, and you'll be on your way to really starting to appreciate the night sky. Uh, you don't need any instrument once you really can start to find things, and there's no instrument that's going to be capable of showing you the night sky like a professional instrument like the Hubble telescope or some of the other telescopes that are being put in various dark places all over the world. Those photos are available sometimes. They make them available. So when you see it with your own eyes and your own instruments, small instruments, to then go and look at, okay, what does it look like when it's been taken by, one of the when a photo has been taken by much bigger telescope or other instrument. That can be interesting. And then reading about, how long have we known that this thing existed there? That's another aspect that really caught me. And there's a series of books that I'll recommend. Burnham's Celestial Handbook. And Burnham was a guy who worked at various observatories, and he wrote out a 3-volume set, hundreds of pages, dedicated his life to this, and did the research on how long have we known as people about this particular object. So the histories that are in there and the descriptions that are in Burnham's Celestial Handbook. Again, you can buy, I bought all 3 volumes of Burnham's Celestial Handbook. I think they cost me a total of $20 because I joined a book club. And that was one of the, at the time, this was several years ago, I don't know if that exists anymore, but you can find Burnham's Celestial Handbook if you just read or Google that. You can buy them easily. You can get the whole 3-volume set for, less than a couple of price of a couple of cups of coffee. So I've given you 3 tools that I think are indispensable. 1, a planisphere. 2, a pair of binoculars. And 3, Burnham's Celestial Handbook as a guide to the night sky and what you're going to see. Now what he shows you are photos that have been taken by various large telescopes around the world, and I think he ended his writing of those volumes in the late 70s, maybe early 80s. So things have advanced further since then, but there's still no better guide than that set of volumes in terms of the history of the object that you're looking at, maybe what it took before we were able to understand what we're looking at. That is an indispensable tool, that set of books, in my opinion. There aren't any out there, even modern books, that can compare in a lot of ways to Burnham's Celestial Handbooks. But again, okay, so here we are. This is a series of talks. This was talk number 2, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I gave you a little bit of information, a few tools that you can run out and start to appreciate the night sky. It's getting a little cooler. As the nights get cooler, it's important to dress warmly Get out there and look at what's in the winter sky, because there's nothing like the winter sky. Dress warmly, get a good pair of boots and a good pair of wool socks that will keep your feet warm, and wear a silly hat if you have to keep your head warm. But you'll be thankful that every hour that you spend under the night sky will return for you tenfold in your joy of this beautiful planet that we live on. Talk to you again soon, people.